When making changes to a budget, there are a few things to be aware of when you're editing the budget. Just for reference, I'm using CenterPoint for agriculture, but the steps would be the same for CenterPoint for business or CenterPoint fund accounting. For CenterPoint fund accounting, when I refer to a profit center, that is going to be equal to a department in your product. When I refer to a company, that is going to be equal to a fund in your product. The first thing to be aware of when editing a figure in a budget is the entry mode that you're set at. And you can find the entry mode by either going to File and Properties or going to Properties by clicking on the Properties icon on your toolbar and then going to the Entry Mode tab. Just be aware of what the entry mode is set to. If you had entered in your budget at Open Entry and now all of a sudden your budget entry mode is set to Journal Entry Offset to Cash, any changes you make will be offset to cash and would affect the cash line on your budget, and that might not be what you want. Vice versa, if you had previously been set to Journal Entry Offset to Cash, but now you're set to Open Entry and you make an entry, it's not going to adjust your cash, which might lead to a balance sheet that is not balanced. Okay, so just be aware of the entry mode. Mine was set to Account Entry Mode. Now, some of the lines in your budget might be simple to make a change to. It went back to the top, so I'm going to scroll back down to the area that I was positioned on. Some of the changes that you make might be pretty simple. For example, on this marketing expense line, if I just wanted to change that figure to $600 and hit Tab, it's going to change it. And if I edit the cell, if I go to Edit in Current Cell, you see that it just remains as one line on that because I didn't have any other properties. I didn't have it going to a profit center or anything like that. So it just went ahead and it made that one entry. But if my properties on my budget, so I'm going to go back to the property screen. If on the entry mode tab, I had a property of profit center of corn set there, you can see that at the top that as soon as it comes back, it'll reposition me back to the top and then I'll have to scroll down again. So when I went ahead and selected that profit center of corn, now if I type in an amount on this line, it's going to use that property. So if I change this to $700 and hit Tab, it does something that I don't think that you would imagine it's going to do. I'm going to edit that cell and go to Current Cell. And what it did is it left the original $600 without a profit center on it, and it added an additional line. It added a line for the difference between the 700 and the 600, and it put that property of corn on it. So that's something that you're really going to need to be aware of is the properties that are set on the budget at the time that the entry is done, because the change is going to have those properties on it. So I'm going to take that profit center off and I'm going to click OK. And again, I'm going to have to reposition myself back to that insurance expense line. So when I go ahead and I position myself back down there, now this particular line was already divided out among multiple profit centers. So if I went to Edit in Current Cell, it already has multiple profit center details on it. While right now I don't have any property set, so if I put an amount in there, like let's say I put $600 in there and I hit Tab, it's going to enter in an additional line for the difference, but it'll have no profit center on it. So let me go to there, go to Edit in Current Cell, and you can see that it added an additional line for the difference and it has no profit center detail on it. If you have used a lot of profit center details or management details in your budget, the easier way to edit these cells would be to go to Edit and Adjustments. On this screen, I could click on the View Production box and I would see how much was split to each of the different combinations. So if I needed to change an amount, I could just change it on the appropriate line. Okay, so I can go ahead and change the amount on the appropriate line. If I need to add a new line, I would just position myself in the period that I needed to add a new line, and I would say add a production row, and then I could choose the profit center that I want to add the production row for, and click OK, and it adds that new row. And then I could say, well, that's where I wanted the 6150 to go. I'll adjust that amount and I'll zero out this one. And then when I click OK or click Save, it'll make that change. And we can see that when we go ahead and edit the cell again. So we'll let it reposition ourselves and come back down to that cell, and we'll go to Edit and Current Cell. And now we see that it didn't add a blank line this time. It went ahead and added that line for apples. It does have that detail on it. So edit and adjustments would be the place that you would probably want to make most of your changes if you have added any kind of management details to your budget. I just want you to be aware that there is one entry mode that will require you to make your change a little bit different. There is an entry mode called Detailed Transaction Entry Mode, and it's usually used when you are selling inventory. If I try to make an adjustment on that line, if I go to Edit and I go to Adjustments and I come in here and say, well, I'm going to change this amount to 62,000, and I'm going to change the quantity on that line to 13,000, and then I click Save, it's going to come up with an error saying that I can't make the adjustment here because I've used Detailed Transaction Entry. Okay, for a further description on Detailed Transaction Entry, you should refer to the videos on entering in a budget. Okay, the best way to edit a cell that is using Detailed Transaction Entry is to just delete the transaction, which you can do by going to Edit and Current Cell. You could delete the current transaction. That'll zero out the cell, and then you could go ahead and enter in your figures again.